Spartans! The confidence which you feel in your constitution and your social order seems to incline you to receive any of our reflections of other Greek powers with a certain skepticism. Hence springs your moderation, but hence springs also the rather limited knowledge which you possess in dealing with foreign politics. Time after time, our voice was raised to warn you of the blows about to be dealt us by Athens, and time after time, instead of taking the trouble to confirm the worth of our warnings, you were content to just assume we were telling you this out of self-interest. And so, instead of calling these allies together before the blow fell, you have delayed to do so till we are already hurting under it, allies amongst whom we have not the worst reason to speak, since we have the greatest complaints to make, complaints of Athenian outrage and of Spartan neglect. Now, if these assaults on the rights of Greeks had been made in the dark, you might be uninformed with the facts, and it would be our duty to enlighten you. As it is, long speeches are not needed when you can see servitude already imposed on some of us, planned for others, in particular for your allies, and the prolonged preparations by the aggressor for the beginning of war. What else, we ask, is the meaning of that deceptive seizure of Corcyra, and them holding it against us by force? And what of the siege of Potidæa? These places are important. The latter lies most conveniently for any action against the Thracian towns, while the former would have contributed a very large navy to the Peloponnesians. For all this, you are responsible. It was you who first allowed Athens to fortify their city after the Persian War, and after that to erect the long walls. It was you who, then as well as now, are allowing Athens to deprive of freedom not only those cities she has already enslaved, but also those who are your allies. For the true perpetrator of subjection of a people is not so much the immediate aggressor as the power which permits it while having the means to prevent it, particularly if that power aspires to the glory of being the liberator of Greece. Now, we are at last assembled. It has not been easy to assemble, and our common objectives are still not defined. We say we ought not to be still debating the fact that we have been wronged, but instead deciding the means of our defense. For the aggressors, with their plans fully ready to oppose to our indecision, have put threats aside and turned themselves to action. And we know by which paths Athenian aggression travels, and how insidious its progress is. The Athenians may feel some confidence from the idea that your lack of awareness prevents you from noticing their advance. But that is nothing compared to the momentum their advance will gain from the knowledge that you see what they are planning, but do not care to interfere at all. You Spartans, of all the Greeks, you are the only ones still inactive. And you defend yourselves not by doing anything, but by looking as if you would do something. You alone wait till the power of an enemy is becoming twice its original size instead of crushing it in its infancy. And yet the world used to say that you were to be depended upon. But in your case, we fear, it is more than the truth can prove. The Persians, we ourselves know, had time to come from the ends of the earth to the Peloponnese, without any force of yours worthy of the name advancing to meet it. But this was a distant enemy, while Athens, at all events, is a near enemy, and yet Athens you utterly disregard. Against Athens you prefer to act on the defensive, instead of on the offensive, and to make it an affair of chances by postponing the struggle till she has grown far stronger than at first. And yet you know that the Persians were defeated by their own mistakes rather than Athenian power. And now, if our present enemy, Athens, has not again and again annihilated us, we owe it more to her blunders than to your protection. Indeed, expectations from you have before now been the ruin of some, whose faith in you induced them to omit their defenses. Now we hope that none of you will consider these words of criticism to be words of hostility. No, men criticize friends who are in error. Accusations are reserved for enemies who have wronged them. Besides, we consider that we have as good a right as any to point out Sparta's faults, particularly when we contemplate the great contrast between our two national characters, a contrast of which, as far as we can see, you hardly even realize, having never yet considered what sort of opponent you will encounter in the Athenians, how widely, how absolutely different from yourselves they are. The Athenians are obsessed with innovation, and their designs are characterized by swiftness, both in conception and execution. You have a talent for keeping what you already have, accompanied by a total lack of innovation. And when you are forced to act, you never go far enough. Again, they are adventurous beyond their power, and daring beyond their judgment. And in danger, they are optimistic. Your way is to attempt less than what is justified by your power, to mistrust even what is sanctioned by your own judgment, and to imagine that there is no escape from danger. Further, there is swiftness on their side, while procrastination is on yours. They are never at home. You are never from it. For they hope by their enterprises to extend their acquisitions, while you fear that by your advance to endanger what you have left behind. They are swift to follow up on a success, and slow to retreat from a defeat. Their bodies they spend ungrudgingly in their country's cause. Their intellect they jealously keep to be employed in her service. A scheme unexecuted is with them considered a loss, a successful enterprise a comparative failure. The deficiency created by the miscarriage of an adventure is soon filled up by new, fresh hopes, for they alone are enabled to call a thing hoped for a thing got, judging by the speed with which they act upon their resolutions. Thus they toil on, in trouble and danger, all the days of their lives, with little opportunity for enjoyment, being ever engaged in gaining more. Their only idea of a holiday is to do what the occasion demands, and to them laborious occupation is less of a misfortune than the peace of a quiet life. To describe their character in a few words, one might truly say that they were born into this world to take no rest and to give none to others. Such is Athens, your opponent. And yet, Spartans, you still delay and fail to see that peace stays longest with those who are not more careful to use their power justly than to show their determination not to submit to injustice. On the contrary, your ideal of fair dealing is based on the principle that if you do not injure others, you need not risk your own fortunes in preventing others from injuring you. Now you could scarcely have succeeded in such a policy, even with a neighbor like yourselves. But in the present instance, as we have just shown, your habits are old-fashioned compared to theirs. In law, as in art and politics, improvements always prevail. And though fixed usages may be best for undisturbed communities, constant necessities of action must be accompanied by the constant improvement of methods. Thus it happens that the vast experience of Athens has carried it further than you on the path of innovation. Here, at last, let your procrastinations end! For the present, assist your allies, and Potidea in particular, as you promised, by a speedy invasion of Attica, and do not sacrifice friends and kindred to their bitterest enemies, and do not drive the rest of us in despair to seek alliances elsewhere. Such a step would not be condemned, either by the gods who received our oaths, or by the men who witnessed them. The breach of a treaty cannot be blamed on the people who, after having been abandoned, seek new, more reliable allies. Instead, the blame lies with the power that fails to assist its allies in need. But if you will only act, we will stay with you. It would be unnatural for us to change, and never should we meet with such a congenial ally. For these reasons, choose the right course, and strive to not let the Peloponnesian League under your leadership degenerate from the prestige that it enjoyed under your ancestors.